In today's video, I will be building 3 clone bases at 3 different sizes and on 3 different planets. Everyone seemed to really like this idea when I did it last time, and it's been a while since I built a clone base, so I figured why not go back to one of my favorite style of mocks. A lot of us Star Wars fans love clone troopers, especially after growing up during the prequel era and watching shows like the Clone Wars or the Bad Batch. Let's be honest, most of us had a favorite clone trooper or legion, or you can be painfully indecisive like myself and you just can't make up your mind between all of them. But as we know, clones need a place to sleep, eat, and live outside of the battlefront.
He said it! He said it!
And with battlefronts scattered across the universe, the possibilities are limitless, which is why these clone bases are always incredibly fun to make. But with that being said, sit back and relax, maybe grab yourself some roti and rye, and enjoy as I build 3 more clone bases. Just like in the last base video, I'm starting with a measly 16 by 16 base plate, so my base is gonna be pretty small. So instead of building a whole base, I'm gonna be building more of a camp. Essentially, the scene I'm trying to create is 2 clone scouts stopping to make camp and cook up a meal during their patrol of an icy planet. I wanted to create a snowy and cold atmosphere for these clones, but also show some snow melting away in the center of the build for the fire that I was gonna put there. Before that, I finished the terrain by adding a bunch of small ice features and finished up with some trees. I did the classic kind of Thecantinatop build technique, but after that I put a fire together with this technique using a wheel piece and some flames, and I'm honestly really happy with how the fire turned out. Of course, we needed something for the clones to eat, so I built this cooking stand and threw a turkey on the cooker for the troops to enjoy. Now the lads can take a break from their scouting to eat a meal or even crack open a can of Pog soup. Shout out to Subtoad. I really like this build. It inspired some ideas for the future, which I am actually super excited to try. I really like how this build turned out. I really do enjoy the techniques that I used on this. It gave me a lot of ideas, you know, maybe a Battle of Ilum for the future. Keep your eyes out for that, but you know what? I really did like this. But with that being said, let's get on to the next one. For this second build, I wanted to create a clone base on the planet of Geonosis, the bug planet we see in the prequels and the Clone Wars TV show. Lucky for myself, I recently made a Geonosis build in a previous video, so I was able to use some of the terrain from the previous build to help me create a mountainside. From there, my initial idea was to build a clone bunker, but then I decided I wanted to add a second level, because why not make it more difficult for myself? So I switched from a bunker to a listening outpost. Given the Geonosians likely create a lot of wind vibrations from those giant wings on their back, it would make sense that the clones would have a few listening outposts on the planet just to track those little monsters. I didn't have a real outlined plan for this base, but I got to building and I really liked where everything was going. For this back wall, I added a big cooling system, but to be honest, I didn't add anything underneath, so please don't look at that. For the front of the base, I built these windows and added some searchlights for nighttime. And finally, on the other wall, I added a door that leads out to this listening device that I made. After installing some safety compliant handrails, the second level was all but done. After adding the second level, I just added some of the finishing details throughout the base and upper level, and of course, a Republic flag was added. Then finally, all that was left to do was add the minifigs. I went with some Phase 1 clone troopers in this custom Zabrak Jedi I made using the iconic 2001 Clone Wars Jedi clone armor that Obi-Wan wore in the Battle of Munilist. One of my favorite chess pieces that I picked up from Jonak Toys, highly recommend it. These Republic forces are listening for any Geonosian activity, but what they don't know is that they're the ones being listened to by the Geonosians, because they have caves that lead right up to their base. This was a fun build to make, and I like the small story elements throughout the build. I'm really enjoying using these American Brick Geonosian minifigs, and I am super stoked to make more Geonosian builds in the future, like for sure. But out of the 2 builds so far, which one is your favorite, and what planet would you want me to build my next clone base on? Let me know in the comments, and let's get into the third and final mock. For the final build, I wanted to create a base on the rocky surface of a moon. This could be a simple surveying outpost to track all inbound and outbound ships coming from a planet or system, so you know, nothing too fancy. Like, don't expect me to build that medical base from like the Malevolence episode. That is not happening today. Since the majority of the base layer would be covered, I didn't put too much effort into detailing it, but I did add some scattered pockets of tile and plate here and there. After that, I added the pillars that would hold my space station and then got to work on the actual structure itself. I wanted to build this using a bunch of different white pieces because I feel like it was a common color to see in the early days of the Clone Wars. So I came up with this initial design using some old Lego space pieces I had lying around, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I used a ton of snot techniques for this base. I think like a different technique for each wall, so it was definitely good practice, and I think the walls look great. Going inside the base, I wanted to make sure the level of details didn't fall off, so I put the same effort into the interior. I started off by tiling off the inside to give it a sleek look, then I added a bunch of computers and workstations for my crew. And lastly, I made sure my window and airlock walls were consistent on both sides. I'm honestly really happy with how the interior came out, but let me know if you think I missed anything or if there's anything you would have added. I designed the roof to mirror the floor design and then snapped it into my build, leaving me with this moon base. I think it looks great, but it needs a crew, so I added a handful of clone naval troopers and a Republic naval commander. And to defend the station, we have a couple of clones just in case any droids come around. All that was left was to attach it to the support beams, and my space base was done. Now, I think this build came out great. I am super stoked to be building these again. I love clone bases, and I never get to use my clone naval troopers, so big win on that. Putting this build together has given me so many ideas for stuff I want to build in the future. I feel like these things always kind of do. But yeah, I think this build came out great. I love the minifigures. I love the build itself. Love it. I feel like these bases meet the Jedi standard for clone troopers. Well, depending on which Jedi you ask, I guess. But let me know which one of today's mocks was your favorite, and what other Clone Wars style builds would you want to see in the future? I love me some clone troopers, so any ideas are appreciated. And you never know, I may just build your idea in a future video. You also may have noticed in this video that my setup changed a little bit. That's because I made some recent upgrades to my work studio, which I will be showing y'all in a video coming soon. This new setup just opens a lot of possibilities for me, and I am really excited for the videos I can make going forward now. But if you like this video, then YouTube thinks you like this video here. And if somehow you missed my last clone-based video, then catch up by clicking on this video here. But as always, thanks for swinging by the cantina today. I wish you safe travels, and I'll see you in the next one.